The Indie Mix.
The Alternative Hour with Charlie Smith.
That's right, we're back for the Alternative Hour with me, your host, Charlie Smith. We've got plenty coming up for you today, including an interview and live performance with Joe Millett, up-and-coming singer-songwriter from Norwich. And of course, everyone's favourite, the Indie News. But first, here's the real news.
Good evening, this is the Indie Mix News. I'm Johnny Elstone with the latest headlines. After warnings from senior doctors that the NHS is under intolerable pressure, the Prime Minister has admitted patients aren't getting the care they deserve. In his first speech of the year, Rishi Sunak promised to cut hospital waiting times, conceding something has to change in the health service. Fari Ahmed, who's a GP, says she's never seen a winter like it.
You come to do this job because you want to make a difference. If you're trying to and you can see that things aren't letting that happen, and you can see that there are people who are going to go and become worse, you want to shout and say, stop, what is going on? Why? Why is this going on now?
The Chancellor is preparing to scale back energy bill support for businesses, saying it's unsustainable. Jeremy Hunt's confirmed funding will decrease from March, as it's claimed extending the scheme in its current form could cost billions. Rail passengers will be disrupted again during the second of 5 consecutive days of national rail strikes. The next round of talks between the Transport Minister and the RMT union is scheduled for next week, despite both parties saying they're open for negotiations. Alicia owns a sandwich shop near Reading Station and fears what will happen to businesses like hers if the stalemate continues.
If it's so quiet, there's not need for as many staff, so people like myself would probably be let go because the income and then the wages is probably going to be affected in the future if it carries on.
Meanwhile, the new leader of the TUC has called an urgent meeting with the Prime Minister to break the deadlock in industrial disputes. In sport, Arsenal have moved 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League with a goalless draw against fellow title contenders Newcastle. The result leaves the North East club 9 points adrift of the leaders. Manchester United consolidated 4th place with a 3-0 victory over Bournemouth. The pressure's increased on Everton manager Frank Lampard following a 4-1 thrashing at home by Brighton. Leicester suffered a 3rd straight defeat as they lost 1-0 to Fulham. And tributes are being paid to West Ham co-chairman David Gold, who has passed away at the age of 86 following a short illness. The club's vice-chairman Karen Brady has tweeted, "He was a great friend and a complete gentleman." Manager David Moyes tells Sky Sports News, "Gold will be missed by everyone at the London Stadium."
He was a really, really good man. Used to come into the training ground, have lunch with us. We'd come in every Thursday or Friday. So we were missing it over the last few months when we didn't see him quite as much. But obviously he was someone who we were really fond of.
That's it for the Indie Mix News. The time now is 3 minutes past 7. Your next update is at 9 p.m.
Hey students, I know it can be stressful moving into a new place, making new friends and saying goodbye to mum and dad. But you have one less thing to worry about when you come to Highland Bank. We have a no-fuss policy when it comes to sorting out your finances. Enjoy perks such as a free rail card and discounts at some of your favourite shops. Head to highlandbank.co.uk to find out more. Terms and conditions apply.
Join me, Craig, this Friday at 10 p.m. for the all-night 90s dance party with songs from the likes of Underworld, The Happy Mondays, and Pulp, plus an exclusive guest mix from Damon Albarn of Blur. That's Friday at 10 p.m. only on the Indie Mix.
The Alternative Hour with Charlie Smith.
Welcome back to the Alternative Hour. Later, we have the indie news, so start sending in your incriminating stories of indie musicians in the wild. You can leave a voice memo on WhatsApp or call in to 0800 251 351. But now I'm excited to welcome our special guest to the show. They're an up-and-coming singer-songwriter from Norwich. Been following them for a while. It's a privilege to have Joe Millett on the show today. Welcome, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I caught you live in Norwich, and I know you've been playing in London as well. How have you been finding the response from crowds and the general environment playing live?
It's been quite good. I've lived in London like my whole life, but I moved to Norwich for uni, and I played a couple of open mics and stuff before I went to uni, and they were really it was a very weird environment to play in London. Back then, I don't know why, but everywhere I went, it was just very unpersonable. No one would, I don't know, it was weird. And so I kind of got the impression that London wasn't a welcoming place for new musicians. And I went to Norwich and it was all super. Everyone was like, oh, you know, you should come to this event. You should come to this event. It was really
Right.
cool. Everyone was really like, wanted to get to know you and it felt great. And so then when I moved back to London this year, I was kind of a bit worried, but it was actually like super, like the 2 gigs that I've played have been super, super welcoming. And like I've, you know, made like musician friends and like other people and like I've
Okay,
like, a
great.
few promoters and stuff, which is nice.
Awesome. Brilliant. So what artists inspire you and made you want to take up songwriting?
Cliche answers, but like Nick Drake, John Martin.
I definitely heard that, yeah.
But also like in other ways, like in like I guess a song structure kind of way. There's like again Nick Drake, but also like newer artists like Little Sims. I think like her like approach to like actual songwriting and like as a writer, I find that really interesting. So I try and like not try, but I do tend to end up not having like verse chorus
Right.
as like a song structure. It tends to be more like section A, section B, section C.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I really like your way of playing guitar. I actually think it's quite unique compared to anything I'm hearing at the moment. I was just wondering how you came about that specific style.
Yeah, I'd say I've always found using a pick super, super uncomfortable. And I very, very briefly had a guitar teacher when I was in school back like 9 years ago. And he asked if I'd ever used a pick. And I was like, no. And then he gave me a pick to use and I hated it. And then he never made me use a pick again. And so I just never learned to use a pick.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because I think in a way, not learning in that traditional way, you've created a new sound and new style for yourself that kind of separates you from others.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's because I'm also incredibly bad at like finger picking as well.
Right.
Like I know these are like putting myself down answers, but like I've always been really poor at like finger picking and like actual finger style guitar, but I've also never been able to use a pick, so I've always had to just strum with my hands.
I see.
And I have, to be fair, I have always thought that when you strum like with your actual like nails rather than using a pick or something, or like finger picking, I feel like it does sound more full.
Yeah,
you strum with your
I know what you
hand.
mean. It also sounds a bit more intimate, and you can be a lot more expressive. With
Yeah,
that,
I feel
with that
like
form of
because
play.
it's your hand. It's
Yeah,
not like just a bit of plastic you're holding.
Yeah,
kind of thing,
and you can often hear the pick even.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So give us some background on the song you're about to perform.
So yeah, this song was like definitely in a phase of listening to like some Nick Drake, and I don't know, it was just I wrote it like in May of 2022. It's called Time After Time. It's like it's a slower one. I have been trying to write, like, it was actually in a period where I was like trying to write some more like upbeat songs, and I allowed myself one slow song, and this was the slow song that I let myself write.
All right. Take it away, Joe.
Sweet. Is a thought not a thought? Is a thought a pale reflection of another's true importance, their convictions and their emphasis?
That was Joe Millett with Time After Time. Thanks very much, Joe. That was brilliant. Is there anything you'd like to plug whilst you're here?
Yeah, I actually do have a gig in Norwich coming up on the 24th of February, supporting one of my friend's bands called Sasha.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And one of the last things, Joe, we ask all our guests, is there anyone you'd like to shout out, any other up-and-coming artists, anyone we might not have heard of or the listeners might not have heard of?
Yeah, actually, there's a couple of bands that come to mind from Norwich that I'd love to shout out. There's one called Bag of Cans, who are kind of, they're hard to describe actually, like hard to pin down, kind of ska-ish indie. Definitely indie, but ska-ish. But they've got a lot of when you listen to a few of their songs, there's a lot of different influences going on there.
All right, sounds interesting.
And then there is Damp Matches, who are another great Norwich band, but they're more of like a punky slightly heavier affair, but they've also got some absolute bangers, like really catchy tunes.
Okay, great. Awesome. So look out for that. Check Joe out. Hope to see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Great. Thanks very much.
The Alternative Hour with Charlie Smith.
Planning on buying your first home? We can help with that. Here at Apollo Agents, our goal is getting you on the property ladder. Whether it's a bungalow in Cornwall or a flat in East London, we're here for you. Contact us today at apolloagents.co.uk and you could be moving into your dream home sooner than you think.
The Alternative Hour with Charlie Smith.
Loved catching up with Joe. It's brilliant to hear them live in the studio. Now, though, we have everyone's favourite. It's Indie News. Indie News. That's right. It's Indie News, where we get the local scoop on indies in the wild near you. Our first message comes from Sam from Bury St Edmunds.
Hey Charlie, here's my bit of indie news. So I think it was 2016, and I think it was a Superglue gig. But we went down to the Hunter Club, and the whole time, Ben Brown, the singer, was like, rocking out, doing this crazy show. And it was really good. And the whole time, he was just chewing this massive, big ball of gum. And then he just, started stretching it out of his mouth and just slowly, lowering it, further and further down, and then, sucking it back up, and then, spitting it back down, and, it was really gross. And then it gets so long, this, stretch of gum from his mouth. He sticks it to the floor, and then he's seeing, how far the gum would stretch from the floor to his mouth, all while still playing. And it was just incredible. I'd never seen anything like that. It was like a show, but it was also like a circus act in a way. Amazing. Fantastic band. One of the, many experiences I won't forget in Bury St Edmunds. Lovely.
Yeah, a circus act for sure. Yeah. They might have been at the wrong gig. Okay, our next message is from Harvey in Coventry.
Hey, Charlie. You will not believe this. So, this is my news for you. So, I was at a 1975 concert, the one in Brighton the other week, and oh my God, best concert ever, right? All good, all good. Finished the show, Matt Healy does, his typical little thing, blah, blah, blah. Come off the stage, go around the back, I'm waiting there for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, trying to meet him, right? All of a sudden, this man comes out, right? And I was with my mate Bill, right? And Bill's sitting there smoking a cigarette, whatever. And I go, Bill, look who it is. Turns around, Matt Healy. Matt Healy literally walks up to him, pinches his cigarette, takes one puff from it, throws it on the floor, puts it out, looks at him and says, he blows him a kiss.
Oh
he blows him a kiss and he says,
Jesus Christ.
See you later, mate. And honestly, we overreacted a little bit, Charlie. I can't lie.
No respect these days. No respect these days. Well, another reason not to see the 1975 live. Right, moving on to our live caller in the studio today. We have Kevin. Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
Hey, Charlie. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Tell us your bit of indie news, Kevin.
Right, so I was at, a garden center just last Sunday, and I saw, you might not believe it, but I saw, what's his name? The singer from Radiohead.
Tom York.
Yes, Tom York. And he was shopping for flowers. I guess he has a garden. I have a garden too. It's kind of cool. Then we both have a garden, I mean.
We all do.
He must have wanted some specific flower. I think it was tulips or something. And the guy just didn't have any tulips. And look, I know they're just like us. They're normal people. But he flipped off. He went off on the guy. He just started yelling about tulips. It got kind of weird because people started recognizing him. I don't know. I thought it was a weird situation.
See, you think all that venting into the music would mean he wouldn't flip out at the cashier, but like you said, we all need flowers, and Tom York really needs them.
You really wanted those tulips.
All right, well, thanks very much, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for calling in. There's another great indie news. My favourite segment, and sometimes my least. Indie news. Right, thanks for listening, everyone. That is the end of Indie News. The last you'll be hearing from me today, and what a show it's been. Join us at the same time tomorrow, 7 to 9 p.m. A surprise guest will be popping by to give us a taste of their new single. You don't want to miss it. I'm so excited. Coming up next on the Indie Mix, we've got some great underground tunes with Pablo. But first, here's some Citrus.
Do you